All right, we are on.
We're rocking.
Yep.
Okay. Um, Good morning, everyone. The time is now 9:32 a.m. and I call to order the May 3rd, 2025 meeting for the Elsie Whitlow Stokes Freedom Public Charter School. Welcome to our board meeting. My name is Dr. Anton Smith, and I am the board chair. Our board members are present so that we have a quorum. We will do a roll call to indicate which board members are currently present on this call. I ask that the board members indicate their presence by saying aye. Forgive me. Beatrice,
Aye.
Morgan,
Aye.
Stanley,
Aye.
Tim, uh, Amy,
Aye.
Kevin. You're muted, Kevin. Thank you, sir. I screen shifted. Did I miss anyone? I don't think I missed anyone. And then once again, Anton Smith, I am present, and I. All right, thank you. Once again, we constitute a quorum. At this point, we'd like to move forward with the approval of the agenda. My apologies, the agenda went out a little late of some technical difficulty. So I thank you guys for your patience. Hope you got an opportunity to kind of look it over or look it over quickly. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda for this May 3rd, 2025 board meeting?
Oh.
The motion has been moved by Kevin Bryant. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Morgan. Is there any discussion? There being none, we will move to a roll call vote. Once again, I'll ask that the board members indicate their acceptance of the May 3rd agenda by indicating aye or refusal by saying nay. Beatrice,
Aye.
Morgan,
Aye.
Stan,
Aye.
Tim, Amy,
Aye.
Kevin. Couldn't hear you, Kevin. What? We see you on the screen. Aye. BC, welcome to the meeting.
Yep. Aye. Apologies.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. And Anton Smith indicate aye. We accept it. So the motion to approve the May 3rd, 2025 agenda has passed. So it is live. Thank you, guys. And then the second thing we'll move into is the approval of the minutes from our March 8th board meeting. Can I please get a motion to approve the March 8th, 2025 minutes?
I motion to approve the March 8th, 2025 minutes.
Thank you, Morgan. It's moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's an appropriate second, and I didn't see who it was, but okay, it's been seconded. So once again, we will move on to a roll call vote. Once again, asking aye or nay to indicate acceptance or rejection of the March 8th, 2025 board meeting minutes. Sorry, Beatrice,
Aye.
Stan,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Kevin,
Aye.
BC,
Aye.
Anton Smith, board chair is aye. The minutes pass, so we are approved. Give me one second. Let me put my okay. At this, so once again, board agenda and the minutes have been approved. One of the things that I am so grateful for Bobby coordinating, and we missed it in kind of our prior meetings, is the return of the young folks. I love the opportunity to kind of hear from the next generation of leadership. So our school leadership from the student level. So we have those two young folks, Tyler Carter and Rose Sassmary, presented today to us. And so take a few minutes to hear from them. So I'll turn it over to Bobby to lead that process.
Good morning. So Rose is logging in. We told her 9:45, but we're moving right along. So Rose is about to log in a moment. So we can go ahead and hear from Tyler Carter. Tyler is the student ambassador at East End. I just saw her. Oh, there she is. And good morning, Tyler. How are you? Oops, I can't hear you. Can you speak up just a little? Okay. Can anybody else hear her?
I know, no.
Um, try one more time.
Here we go.
I think we heard you. Yes. So, Ms. Julia, are you going to share her slides? So Ms. Julia will share your slides and then you can talk about it. But welcome to our board meeting.
Hello, my name is Tyler. I am one of the student ambassadors at Stokes. I am in 5th grade French. These are the updates. Coins for Cali was a student ambassador led fundraiser. So basically we help raise it was like a fundraiser to help raise money for California and all the schools and stuff that were destroyed. Student ambassadors participated in the PYP review. Student ambassadors help support the French spelling bee, and we also participated in the GWU food literacy project. And I have performed at different school events through the after school dance team. Thanks for listening. Any questions?
Excellent. Thank you for your continued leadership of the school and your very active participation. The school seems to be have been in good hands this year under your leadership. So encourage you to keep moving and keep being an active part in the school process. So thank you.
Thank you.
Tyler, I have a question. What do you like most about being a student ambassador?
I like helping out the different events.
Okay, cool. What was your favorite one you think, or your top 2 favorite ones this year?
The French spelling bee.
Cool.
Hi there. Just a quick question for you. About how many student ambassadors do you all have? How many other ambassadors are there?
So there are student ambassadors and junior ambassadors. The junior ambassadors are the 4th graders, and the student ambassadors are the 5th graders. And there are about 6 student ambassadors.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
It's so important to have the students, participating in the board meeting because it reminds all of us board members why we do this. So thank you again for your presence. We definitely appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
All righty. Julia, did we see no login from Rose
Not
yet?
yet.
Yep.
Mm-mm.
We had told 9:45.
Do you want to get started on your part and then we can pop back to the students when she gets here?
We can do maybe the committee reports. What's next? But I think Dad just texted me.
So we can start with move to the committee reports and then bounce back when Rhodes pops on. All
Okay.
right. So let's quickly pivot everyone to the committee reports. Understanding I don't want to stop the finance committee in flow, so let's move to some of the other committees first, and then we'll kind of end with the finance committees. Governance committee, is there anything to report?
Yeah, I have a few just notes. The first being that Kira has tendered her formal resignation from the board, and we have accepted it. So Kira is no longer a trustee, but we do thank her for her service and wish her well. The second note is that you all probably saw an email from me. I think I sent it one of the last weeks of April for our officer nominations. So we are seeking officer nominations for chair, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary. We tentatively have those slots filled, but anyone can run. You can nominate yourself or you can nominate someone else. The plan is to finalize our slate by May 12th. And then the special meeting, which I'll discuss in just a second, we'd also like to vote on those officers at that time. So if you're interested, reach out to whoever holds that position or reach out to the governance committee and we can facilitate that. Relatedly, at the end of this year, we'll have, I believe, three of our colleagues stepping down for term limits. That's going to leave some shoes to fill. And so we're asking for recommendations. These people should be ideally connected to the Stokes community, and have the expertise we're looking for. And if anyone has someone in mind and just wants to have a conversation with myself or Amy about some of the gaps we have, please do reach out. Another source of this can be the committee work. So we've been reaching out to our community members with various expertise, and getting them involved in committees, not as formal trustees, but as committee members. And if you've been working with anyone who would make a standout addition, please refer them to the governance committee so we can get them vetted and on their way to becoming a trustee. Let's see. Next, so there was another email from me late April asking you all to fill out a doodle poll for two different events we need to schedule. The first is it's going to be a special meeting, but the main goal for it will be to vote on the strategic plan. And it will also be to vote on our officers for the 2025-26 school year. I got responses from about half of you all, and right now it's looking like it's going to be, let's see here. Right now, Friday, May 30th is tentatively from 10 a.m. to 12. It's tentatively the date. But again, that's about half of y'all's availability. So please fill that out. If you don't have the email anymore, I'll resend it, but please fill that out so we can finalize that date. And then the other date is Antoine will work on a great title for it, but it will be our summer board retreat. And the main purpose of that will be to do the board's work in the strategic plan, meaning Bobby and the team have been doing a great job, and you'll hear about it in a bit. But there's a chunk of work that the board needs to do in creating the board's own, mini strategic plan, but also how can we support all the work streams that the school are doing, so that they have what we need to accomplish the plan. And then finally, myself and Antoine and Bobby are in the midst of, again, this will need a new title, but setting up an ad hoc response committee. As you know, Bobby and the team have been hard at work. They're Title VI lawyers trying to navigate the current landscape. And that's obviously a daunting task, but it also is a task that has to happen quite quickly. And so a lot of this has been, text, phone calls, ad hoc, jumping on Zooms. And we think rather than try to if something large comes up that we need full board input for, we think it'd be very helpful to have a subcommittee dedicated to responding to this so we can address it quickly. I think. Oh, so anyway, so if you know anyone has experience with, federal level litigation, crisis management, education policy, particularly with this administration, please connect them with myself or Antoine or Bobby, and we can start having that conversation. It's a committee, so they do not need to be formal trustees, but there are obviously some confidentiality and conflict concerns. So we just need to make sure we have the right people.
Great. Thank you, Morgan. Two quick things before we switch streams to Rose. I want to make sure I acknowledge the trustees that have joined us, Erica, Carlos, and I believe BC. So we'll make sure that we have them on the record as being actively participating in this board meeting. And the second thing, a little clarification. I'm a little less concerned about potential trustees having a connection to Stokes. We're a big umbrella with and we have lots of room for new family members. And I think several of our latest trustees don't necessarily have that prior relationship, but have brought their commitment and their desire to impact the school. So it's kind of a nice to have, but I don't think it's required. I think what's more important is that we have the right skill set to allow us to adequately move the school forward. So I just wanted to give that brief clarification. At this point, once again, I'll turn it over to Bobby to have Rose join us.
Thank you. Good morning, Rose. This is our Board of Trustees. They are the ones who make different policy changes and the governance of the school. So technically, they're my bosses. And I want to introduce you to Rose, Madam President. Rose is the student government president for the Brooklyn Student Government. So Rose, Ms. Julia is going to share the screen and you can just talk about some of the items that you worked on.
Okay. Hi. My name is Rose Zathmer. I am Elsie Willow Stokes School Student Government President. I'm going to tell you the things that the student government has done from 2024 to 2025. One of the things that the student government has done this year was we brought back Popcorn Friday. Popcorn Fridays are where student government sells popcorn for $1 and raises money for a charity. This year, we chose SYNGAP 1 as a charity to donate our proceeds to. SYNGAP 1 is a genetic disease that a pre-K at our school has. She is one of 1,500 kids in the world who has this disease, and there is no cure. Last weekend, we supported a SYNGAP 1 fundraiser. Yeah, next slide. We were school ambassadors for the IB visit, and we spent time with Madam Rebecca preparing for the IB visit. We also worked with graduate visitors on their food literacy project. We planned a fantasy-themed friendship ball. A friendship ball is a fun dance around Valentine's Day where you dress up in costumes and dance with your friends and classmates. Another thing that we did was we got a clock for the multi-purpose room. A lot of students wanted a clock so we could know how much longer we had to finish our game in PE. And we selected the first round winners of this year's yearbook cover contest. This year, students got to create art based on a theme that the student government decided. This year, we chose the 4 seasons. And then we planned Spirit Week. Monday is going to be Pajama and Stuffy Day. Tuesday is going to be Twin Day. Wednesday is Wacky Wednesday. Thursday is Sports Day. And Friday is Formal Day. That's it. Yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you for that wonderful report, Rose. And I don't know if anyone has any questions for Rose.
I wanted to once again, thank you, Rose, and thank you for your leadership in the school. It's so important for the board to hear from all levels of leadership, and you definitely represent a level of leadership that we want to hear from, and we appreciate all the wonderful work you're doing. We want to encourage you to keep leading, keep doing the fantastic work that you're doing, and continue to grow with Stokes. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And as you know, our 3 school rules are: I will take care of myself, I will take care of others, and I will take care of my community. And you and the student government are doing that. The young scholar that has SYNGAP 1, before she arrived to Stokes, we never heard of this this disease. And I think it only has affected 1,500 people have been diagnosed with it, and there's not a lot of research around it. So thank you, Rose, for taking care of our immediate self and our immediate community, and making her and her family feel loved. Appreciate it.
Can I ask Rose a question? So great presentation, Rose. So Rose, you're a 5th grader?
Yep.
Yeah, so you're going to graduate next month. What are you going to miss most about not being a student at Stokes anymore? Or so what have you liked the most? And I guess what are you going to miss?
I like the teachers and staff at Stokes. They're really
Oh,
nice.
great, great. Are you excited about graduation?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. What are you gonna miss the most when you're gone?
Well, I heard DCI has bad lunches, so I miss the school lunches.
Oh, you're gonna miss the wonderful lunches. Excellent, excellent. Well, congratulations and thank you so much for presenting to us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I appreciate you.
Here. Okay. Then at this point, let's return to the proper order for the committee reports, and I'd like to turn it over to Finance Committee.
Good morning. This is Carlos. Let me see if my camera will work here. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I'm not sure if Bill is on as well to go
Yeah.
through. Okay. So the Finance Committee has met with the Stokes School administration on the finance, and we reviewed the updated current financials for the school, and things seem to be all in order. I'll let Bill come in and walk through the detail and help support. Any questions?
And Bill, you'd like to share your own screen, yes?
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, thank you, Carlos. First off, good morning, everyone. First off, I have to agree with Rose. I miss the school lunches too. So, it used to be nice to just walk down the hall and get lunch. So I do miss that. Anyways, as you may know, we're at the point of the year where we're sort of shifting gears. We're easing out of this year, getting ready for next year. And we're not going to be voting on the budget this year because there are a number of issues that are still up in the air. So before we put the final budget together for you to vote, we figured we'd give it some time. Hopefully some of it will have a little bit more clarity. But anyways, we have put together a budget based on certain assumptions. And let me share my screen.
Anton, I see you talking. I don't know if you're muted if you're
I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm sorry. No, just for clarity, just for the record, because you said I think unintentionally that we're not going to be voting on the budget this year. I think you meant to say we're not going to be voting on the budget currently, but we will
Currently, yes,
today.
I'm
I
sorry.
just want to make sure the record is clear. Thank you.
No. At this meeting, you will not be voting on the budget. But anyways, I thought what would be good is to really go through parts of what the key items of the budget. One of the first things is the enrollment. Where do we anticipate the enrollment to be? Right now, at our forecast, we're probably around 695. We're budgeting for an increase. We're projecting to get to 713. Anything over and above that would be wonderful. Anything below it, obviously, because of the per pupil amount, which I also added here, so you get a feel for the dynamics of this. But currently our per pupil allowance is 14,668 for this year. For next year's budget, we don't know. There's a lot of, I guess they're still not sure what's happening with the DC budget. But for the purposes of this budget, I left it the same, and same with the facilities allowance. And for those of you who are new here, these two items we receive per pupil, obviously per pupil. So every student who's enrolled as of the October 5th child count date, we get paid for. So, if we have 713,000 students, we will get paid 14,006, whatever the per pupil allowance is for each one of those. And same with the facilities allowance, we get that much for each student that's enrolled. So once again, as I said, this is one of the things that we're currently waiting for a little bit more direction on as far as which way this is going. Initially, a couple months ago, we were expecting that there to be an increase. Right now, we're not too sure. But the other factor we have that we allocate is expense increase. And one of the reasons for the expense increase is you might have, with increased students, you have some additional expenses as well. So as we go through this, we're factoring a little bit more or a 5% increase. So as you can see, I don't want to, our total income right now based on this preliminary budget is about the same as what we have this year. And once again, that really has a lot of impact on where we spend, because obviously we can only spend what we get. Deficit spending is fine if you have the wherewithal to do it. We don't. So we're not in a position to do deficit spending. So we're looking right now at about $20.6 million budget. We have the salary, everything else flows through. And we get down here to the net income, which, obviously right now we have a deficit, for next year, the projection is minus 220,000. The reason for that, and I went over this before, is the capitalized lease expense, which we have, which has a non-cash rent expense that we have to add, which is 200, we're budgeting at 228. So right now we're budgeting the budget is a break even, which is normally what we try to do, because obviously we get the money in, we want to spend it on education. So that's the goal, is to end up spending the money we receive to educate the kids with a little bit of a surplus left over for a rainy day. Any question? Oh, the other thing, the other factor involved in this is federal funding. Not only do we have the DC budget, but we also have the federal funds, depending where that goes. Right now, we're budgeting that we will still receive federal funding, and a lot of that has to do with the National School Lunch Program, IDA, the Every Student Succeeds, the SOAR grants. Those are ones we think right now will continue, but as we get a little bit more direction, we'll have to budget accordingly. But that's pretty much where we are with the budget. Are there any questions? This is sort of like everything's up in the air, so it's really hard to give you any type of answers, other than saying whatever we go with, we will budget accordingly to make sure that the school is in good shape.
I have a question, Bill, and I appreciate it. Given so many known and unknown unknowns that are on the horizon for us. The only question I had is when you go up a little bit to the expenses, we're assuming that it's going to be a flat budget in terms of number of students and everything else, but we decreased the amount of anticipated expenses from 7% to 5%. Why wouldn't that still be 7% predicted for next year?
Well, when we did the 7%, we were expecting at the time, it could go up. At the time I did this, I was expecting that we would not have the same type of inflationary issues that we did the previous year. But that could be wrong, and we might have to look at that again. Once again, everything on there could be, if what's happening if the price increases really start going up, we're going to have to budget accordingly as well. But thank you for that, because that's a good point. None of these are things that when you put it in, you're assuming at that day, and tomorrow could be different.
Right. Point in time. Absolutely. Thanks, Bill.
So, any other questions on the budget or the
Yeah, this is Kevin. Just some quick thoughts. I'm noticing the line on private grants and donations. There was an expectation or an approved budget for 300,000. It looks like you got about half of that this year. And then the preliminary budget for next year increases to 465. Do you have is there any explanation for why why you only got 153 this year? And some explanation of how you think you're going to go from 153 to 465 next year.
Well, I mean, one of the big reasons is we do have a chief development officer now who's been in her position for a while. And I don't know if Eric is there, if you want, you know, when you talk about these grants, when you budget for them, you're assuming you can get them, you know, there's nothing that's locked. It's like anything else. The assumption is there, you get what you can, and you know, some of them we did not get.
I think, hi, good morning, everyone. Part of the thinking in the increases for next year are the fact that a part of our strategic plan is to build out the capacity of the development department. We're actually going to be doing some restructuring internally to have another person assigned to the development department, which will enable us to access, go after, apply for, build partnerships with even more potential funders. So that's part of the thinking behind it. This year, the difference between what was anticipated and what was actually gotten received in the way of private grants really had more, in my opinion, more to do with how these grants are classified. For example, we got a couple of grants for summer school this year. One was through private foundation, but another was a local grant source. So it's classified differently. We've actually done an outstanding job this year in raising funds. So it's reflected in different places, I think, in Bill's budget.
And so I'm assuming that 146, 140, almost 147,000, some of what you're talking about, Erica, is included. Some of that may actually be considered a donation. Is that what you're saying?
No, so the 146 or 147, however much it is, that is a grant through a private foundation. We have equal amounts of money that came in to support other programming that came in through local sources, more money through federal sources. So it's distributed differently throughout the budget. But I actually, what's the total fundraising?
I mean, once you're right, Erica, when you talk about this, the approved budget for federal other government funds was 791K. We actually came in at 1,099,000. We didn't have a budget for local funds because at the time we really didn't break it out, but we got another 146K by local funds. That would be state grants that we received. So, you know, one of the things when you look at the budget also is, you're right, you may not get it in the actual bucket that it's, you know, so it's really an overall thing that you have to look at, you know, at the end of the day. Any other questions?
Yeah, I guess I'll jump in. My question is maybe more of an existential question and maybe more in the realm of like scenario planning. So, you know, obviously you flagged that the per pupil is going to remain relatively flat, but expenses are going to increase. And this doesn't sort of speak to any of the reserves. I know we have a minimum threshold that we have to keep to remain in good standing with the Public Charter School Board. But, you know, how are we sort of wrestling with trade-offs or talking about where changes might need to occur? Obviously, we've increased other sources of revenue, but with the biggest source of revenue being likely to remain flat, like how do we just mock out what trade-offs might need to take place relative to, meeting our required targets on spending and cash reserves?
Well, like anything else, depending on where we end up is, how much what we have to do. We have been planning many different scenarios depending on where we end up. It's really a question, if we don't get the income, we have to cut the expenses at some point, and we have to look at to see what it is, what's the least harmful, so to speak, to the school, because obviously when we budget these things, everything we budget is something that we think is good and that we need. So when we go through this, when we do the budget, depending where we end up or what scenario we have, we're going to have to budget accordingly. And you're right, these are not, nothing here is, as far as the budget goes, is in stone right now. This is just preliminary based on what we know right now. So you're right, we are planning different things, and that's why we're not voting on it right now. Because if the per pupil is different, you know, I'm hoping that the per pupil is going to be more, that we end up with, you know, fully funded federal grants. That'll be a much nicer budget to put together than one where everything goes the other way. But in either case, we have to do that. And that's what we do. That's the whole idea behind the plan is, we have to see where we have to cut and what we have to cut
Yep.
if we do.
Thank you.
Bill, I have a question. I'm sorry, BC. I didn't realize you were still asking. Go on.
No, I'm done. I just said thank you.
Okay. I have a question, Bill. What from the public charter school board? What are they? Have they set a new deadline for approval of budgets for next year, or is it the same deadline that we've traditionally had?
I think it's still the same.
Mm. So that means that there will have to be an approval of a budget quickly, pretty soon. What, by May 15th? Is that the traditional date?
So I looked it up, and for some reason it says July 22nd, but that doesn't seem right. But
That
I've
would be
heard
different.
others have said like June 25th, something like that.
Okay. Well, I thought that might be helpful to the board in thinking about kind of deadlines for what's coming up. Because I think the board usually approves the budget sometimes in the month of May.
Yeah, so we'll do the special during the special meeting that Morgan sent the doodle poll for.
Okay, so that's with or without any further clarity to what our situation is.
Hopefully it'll be with some clarity. I believe the mayor is set to pass her budget sometime this week or next week.
Good.
Yep. So, Bobby, I was waiting for a moment to interject. We didn't give the board the reason why we weren't voting today. I think that's why we are getting a stream of questions. So if you can just give one or two quick minutes of why that is, I think that'll help clarify.
Yes.
And I apologize. I did mean to give that in my opening remarks.
So typically the mayor has her budget. She turns her budget in and it gets approval later, but she has not done that as of yet because there's a lot of uncertainty right now. And also Congress has also not voted for to give, or I think that the CR, the resolution, they voted on it, but then Senate said, yeah, make sure DC gets their budget corrected, but Congress has yet to vote on it. So there's just a lot up in the air right now. So when the mayor approves her budget, we'll have more clarity or when she turns in her budget, we'll have more clarity on what she's thinking, especially with education. She's promising a lot of good stuff to reallocate money to make sure that education doesn't take a hit, but so hopefully.
Go ahead. Sorry, Bobby.
No, I'm saying hopefully that clarifies why we're not voting today.
So we met as in committee, and the request was to allow the mayor's budget to come out so that the school could then update the school year's budget. Um, so finalize where we think we're going to end up for this year, and then where we think we're going to budget for the 25-26 school year based upon the mayor's outcome from the mayor's issuance of her budget and clarity on also attributes from the federal government. So we thought that that was the best decision to make, considering that the time frame for that was in short, less than 30-45 days from now. We could have that clarity and vote as a board on the next year's budget. A few questions. Hands up. Again, Tim.
If I can, particularly on the federal funding, right? I hear you all on what comes from DC, but a lot of the federal funding, it could be held up in court for a long time. And while it ultimately might be approved, do we have plans in place for, say, if that money's dispersed, 6 months later than we were hoping for?
Typically, in what has happened in the past is we budget, and even if there's delay in funding, we still carry those funds in the budget, and then it just becomes a timing issue. So I think that's more, if I'm answering your question correctly, we will have to work diligently on the timing aspect. It's the clarification of what's actually going to be allocated. Tim, I see your hand up. I think you may be on mute, Tim, or we can't hear you, or at least just me.
How about now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Sorry. In the interest of controlling what you can control, just trying to understand when we see the 713 on there for enrollment, what opportunity gap is there in terms of additional students without impacting classroom size in that conversation? And I think that's my first question. And then based on that response, I think my second question would be where there is a gap that doesn't impact education quality, is there some other resources that we can toggle to spend more effort trying to make that enrollment number, doing some different things about the enrollment number to boost that up, 10 to 15, if that's some possibility there, and then how does that have the obvious ramifications that has on the overall budget? Is that something that's up for consideration?
Yes, and your first question again, Tim, can you repeat your first question?
Is there any capacity, the 713, of the enrollment number going higher without impacting class size?
Yeah, so I think our cap is 750 for both LEAs. So there is room to go up on some class sizes. We do have limitation at, like at the Brooklyn campus, like the pre-K classes the classes overall at Brooklyn campus are a lot smaller than the East End campus. East End, we can go up higher, in some of the numbers, but the waiting list at Brooklyn is higher than East End right now. So yeah. But we've been playing with a lot of different scenarios. And then your second question was, and I don't know did I answer your first question?
That answers the first question. And so I guess the second question being, with 750 being the number, if there is a additional goal for enrollment that could be targeted of trying to, solve the gap for an additional 20 students, are there some additional resources that could go into marketing? I mean, because if we're talking a marketing campaign that would say cost an additional $3,000 to $7,000, but it nets you an additional 20 students, that's a control what you can control, conversation that we can have around this budget, that we're not necessarily, we're accounting for the fact that the per pupil number might go down, the expenses might go up, there are other different factors. And so are there some, like I said, just really thinking about recruitment as a tool to boost some additional revenue, and maybe given where we are, even rethinking some of the strategies you all already might have going into the summer to boost them up a little bit more.
Yeah, and Julia, are you? I know Julia oversees.
Yep. So one of the things that we have decided to do is do a mail campaign, which we haven't tried before for our East End campus to try to get some of those wait list numbers up. We've there are some classes at the East End campus that weren't at capacity yet this past year, and so we're trying to make sure that we have enough folks on our wait list to fill those classes to the the target levels. So that's one of the things that we're doing is we're using a USPS mail campaign this summer. But yeah, additional marketing and things like that are definitely on our radar to increase the enrollment at East End.
And there was a unfortunately there was a school that did close that's east of the river that or two schools that closed, but yeah, one east of the river that I believe that Caroline went to recruitment fair. So there was a recruitment fair that happened that, I don't know if we got anybody from that recruitment fair, but
We definitely have had many post-lottery applications. So it looks like some of our outreach efforts are having impact at East End.
Great, great. Any other questions for the Finance Committee? Thanks, guys. Very, very informational, very, very useful information. Thank you. Okay, can we pivot, please, to the Academic Excellence Committee? And I know Erica's a little under the weather, so I'm not sure if she's going to defer or
I think
get it
she's
out.
trying to mute.
Yeah. All right. I think you might still be on mute.
there you go.
Sorry, my computer literally just went to a black screen
Uh-oh.
and now it just came back. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. The Academic Excellence Committee met on April 21st, and we pretty much discussed just the middle of the year data, the takeaways from that. And so I'm just going to share some of the big tenets to the conversation that we've had. Was somebody gonna say something?
No, you're fine.
Oh, okay. So when we were talking about the middle of year data from the lens of really looking at what the district is looking at as far as the different measures, so academic measures as well as chronic absenteeism measures. And while there's growth to celebrate on both campuses and in the different areas, we really kind of focused on what were some of those areas of gaps. And so when it comes to chronic absenteeism, we shared ideas about how do we engage families in building their capacity to understand and support the school. At the elementary level, we know attendance is not necessarily a student problem. It is usually a parent understanding problem. And what the data shows is very consistent across the area and consistent with national trends is the greatest area for attendance is our primary grades. And oftentimes that's because families don't necessarily understand. Little kids get sick a whole lot, but also families don't necessarily understand what's happening in classrooms. For example, kindergarten, they think, well, if you're missing kindergarten, it's just kindergarten and not truly understanding that kindergarten really is the foundation. And so we talked about ways of communicating with families and building their capacity around what does it mean for the days when we're talking about even excused versus unexcused, how chronic absenteeism and your child having a label of chronic absenteeism is about all of the absences together. And so not only excused, is also unexcused together. So some families are like, well, I sent in a note every single time. And that's fine. And that is more on the lines of compulsory attendance, where you are legally responsible for sending your child to school. And when they are absent, following the guidelines around what is considered an excused absent. So we figured if we can engage the families in some kind of way and to build their capacity around that, helping them understand, well, how many absences can a student have and still be in good standing? And so we shared some ideas around that, and really looking at who to target, especially at different times of year, because it changes throughout the year. This time of year, you would be looking at, well, how many students can you still capture who's already at that chronic absenteeism level, but who are the students that you could still target? And so we really talked about strategies around that. We talked about the academic trends, and while there is still work to be done for literacy, literacy has increasingly been higher than math, and that again is following national trends. And so I shared one of the conversations that came up is that it's still a lot of teacher talk. And so I shared a resource by John San Giovanni, who I worked with in Howard County around a book is called Productive Struggle, and about how to build students' capacity to have conversations, not only about what they're doing in math, but the thinking behind that and the reasoning around that. And then how do you work with teachers to relinquish control so that students are engaging in meaningful discourse around the types of math that they're doing and how they're doing it. Because it's very different than when we did it. I know we call it new math, but it really is just regular old math. We're just thinking about it in a different way. And students are expected to truly understand the math. And what we want to create in students is we want to make sure that students are flexible in their math thinking, that they are flexible thinkers. And the only way to really get at that is to engage them in different strategies. And so we share some resources around that. But we also talked about really how do we build the capacity of our families. And from that idea, we talked about, well, how, like, using our list of expertise, our families that want to volunteer and support the work, is how can we get them to work with maybe families in the community, where the idea is around, if we really work with those families, how can they have parent support groups that they can work with? Here's how you help your child. And here are some strategies, and here are some resources. So as a school, we build, it's kind of like a train the trainers model, but we build their capacity around how do you help children, and then they can take it into their communities and engage in parent support groups during times where it's convenient for the community versus trying to stay within the box of school hours and the parameter of school hours. And maybe those things can happen. We can build their capacity and look at ways to support that during the summer, bringing families in to be able to do so. And so we shared a lot of ideas about engaging families differently than maybe schools have in the past. Anything that anyone else want to add to that I may have missed?
It was also looking at whatever skills in terms of academics that may have been missed as a result of, say, potential absenteeism and things like that as well. And then creating sort of focused training around what those unique academic skills are. And that students and families had the opportunity to potentially step in and step out depending on where they scored on, this assessments and things like that. So it was very targeted, community focused training around sort of capturing and accelerating those student gaps. And
then you just reminded me, we also talked about really, I'm a big data geek, so sorry, I love digging into academic data and looking at trends. We also uplifted really looking at student groups and where are the where disproportionality may show up, not only academically, but also with chronic absenteeism, because then you can dig into root cause around, wait, why are certain demographics showing up more chronically absent than others, and engaging those families intentionally. So that's it for us.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Any questions for academic excellence? Great. Thank you.
I just
Great.
want to say thank you for the work that you guys are doing. I really appreciate a lot and the support. Thank you.
Definitely good stuff. All right, thank you. Development, please.
Good morning again. I just wanted to give a quick development update on a couple of things. First, so far this school year, the development department has submitted a total of 15 grant applications. This is a mix of federal, local, both formula and competitive, as well as proposals to foundations and corporations. And of those 15, we have received 12 decisions. Of those 12, we were awarded 9, which is a very respectable win rate. And so that's thing number one. Thing number two, very happy to support that we have 3 new members of the development committee, 1 parent from Brooklyn, 1 parent from East End, and a Stokes School alumna. We're scheduling a meeting for May to introduce the new members and to start our planning for the next school year.
Outstanding, Eric. Outstanding.
Thank you.
Great leadership. All right. Any questions for development?
Yes. Congratulations, Erica, on nine grants. That's absolutely fabulous. Can you give us an idea of what kind of grants you were awarded?
Yep. We have accessed a few new grants this year. We actually got a couple of grants to support our summer school program, one of which is new. We annually get a couple of grants through the Office of the State, well, several grants through the Office of the State Superintendent of Education, but specifically SOAR grant to support academic excellence. We have part 2 of a SOAR grant for facilities improvements. We have gotten grants to support things like kitchen equipment. And so we've recently been able to purchase a new stove at the Brooklyn campus through it's a USDA grant called the National School Lunch Equipment Grant. Let's see, what else have we gotten? We have applied for a grant to support our study tour program through Expedia, and that's one that we're waiting to hear from. But yeah, multiple grants there to support different aspects of the school's programming.
Fabulous. Wonderful. Great work, Erica.
Thanks.
And your team.
Thank you.
Your small but mighty team.
Small but mighty.
But mighty. Great. Thank you. Any other questions from trustees? All right. Great. And then finally, HR committee, nothing to report on my end. I'll see if Fresha has anything that she wants to share with the trustees. If not, okay. Great. Cool. Then at this point, I will turn it over to Bobby for his head of schools report.
I know some folks have to leave, so I'm gonna. Luckily, it's pretty short. And Julia will share.
Do you want me to share screen? Yeah.
Yes, please.
1 second. Sorry.
All right, so in this edition, we have the French Spelling Bee, the French American Chamber of Commerce, the Volunteer Appreciation Breakfast, Immunization Update, Stokes New Look, and of course, one of my favorite parts, Alumni on the Move, and then upcoming events. This year we had our French spelling bee, and for the first time, it was both campuses combined, and we had judges and guests from the Alliance Française, from the French Embassy, and including the French consul who came. That's her on the left there with the spelling bee champion. And it was funny because every word that came like, "Ooh, this one's a really hard one. Oh my goodness, this one's really hard." She just kept saying, and the kids were just knocking it out the ballpark. And so that is the champ there. But it was a wonderful, wonderful event. And Ms. Bryan, do you remember how many? It was quite a few rounds. I think it went past 10 rounds. I mean, it
Yeah,
was
I was gonna say
long.
10, 11, 12,
Yeah,
something like that.
it was long. And the words just kept getting harder and harder. And we had everyone from kindergarten through fifth grade compete. So kudos. And then we had the teachers cheering them on and the kids cheering them on after every round. So it was a great event. Next. This year we had one of our parents doing a fundraiser for the fifth grade study tour, and the way that he did it was he did it on his own, but it was a gala to raise money, and it was sponsored by the French American Chamber of Commerce, and these are some of the pictures from the gala. And Mr. Dennis Chazelle, I believe is his name. He's executive director for the DC chapter of the French American Chamber of Commerce. He was so impressed with what he saw and heard about the school that he actually invited us to be part of the French American Chamber of Commerce. He's like, it can bring you resources to the school. You can increase your name, so we actually just paid for the membership, and we are now part of the French American Chamber of Commerce. So if anybody knows if there's like a Spanish American Chamber of Commerce or something, just to, for equity and equality, want to make sure to reach out to them as well. Next, we had our volunteer breakfast. This is the second annual one we did at Busboys and Poets. And we had, full house again, and we had a lot of staff members. And Ms. Moore blessed us with a poem that she wrote specifically for this occasion. So, and we had the steel drummers, we had singers, and yeah, and we had two of the board members, Dr. David Smith and Mr. Morgan were there. So thank you for joining us that day. I hope you enjoyed it. And there's something that, it's one of those things that kind of flies under the radar, but it's really, really important. We got the award. We got two awards this year for meeting compliance with our immunization. And Erica was speaking earlier about the importance of having the kids at the school, and so definitely being immunized helps kids not be as sick or not be out, if they do get sick, not be out, for too many days. So our our Mirsa, our operations manager, she's in charge of immunization, and this year we got both the award for the targeted immunization and for the overall immunization. So targeted, it means if you achieve 90% or more, and then so targeted, I believe this year was like the pre-K and K, they have to be all, and then all of the rest of the students as well. So we achieved 95% immunization rates across board. So that's really good. That's really, really good. So kudos to the operations department. In 2 weeks, in a couple of weeks, we will be sharing some of these renditions. We're changing our logo and our motto to leading with love, and our logo is changing from the hand in the house to something that looks similar to this, but we won't know yet. It's going to be a community. We're going to send it out to the community to see what they like, and vote on which one is going to be the next part of the next logo for the Stokes School. So board members, we definitely want your votes. So when we send out the little, not Google poll, I guess we'll do it through Google something. We'll do to see who wins. Yeah, so we're really looking forward to this. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the person who is helping us come up with these designs and logos. And that'll be in our next part when we go to alumni on the move. So first I want to talk about Zachary Keita. Zachary Keita is a Stokes alumnus. He is a fourth generation educator. His great grandmother was an educator in Little Rock, Arkansas. His grandmother was a founder of a DC charter school here in Washington, DC. And his mother was the executive director of a DC charter school. And Zachary also taught at his alma mater at Washington Latin for a couple of years. And he's worked in a lot of different educational policy and teacher consult, he's been educational policy consultant. And this Monday, he starts a new job as the senior manager for the federal policy and advocacy for the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. And if his story sounds familiar, he is the great grandson of Elsie Whitlow Stokes, the grandson of Linda Moore, and the son of Erica Bryant. So super, super proud of Zach and all the work that he's doing. Warms my heart. And this young lady we see here, this is Devin. Devin went to, and Zach graduated from Kansas. Is that Jayhawks? Is that what they are? He's a Jayhawk. And Devin graduated from Georgetown in McDonough School of Business. And she recently launched her own company called Passion Fruit Studios. And she was helping us with the Giving Tuesday campaign. She helped, Ms. Bryant with the Giving Tuesday campaign. And this young lady is helping us design our next school logo. And so she's the one coming up with all the different scenarios for the school logo, which is a marketing tool in itself. Having one of our alumni is coming up with that, and she wanted me to absolutely mention that she is a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. She wanted me to make sure that I throw that in there. So super proud of these two. Upcoming events, we have Staff Appreciation Week coming up this week. We have the Kaboom Playground Build Day, which is on May 14th, and we will send an invite. I think I already sent the invite, but we'll send another invite reminder for our board members if you want to be there on that day. We have our overnight trips coming up. We have the third grade overnight trips camping, the fourth grade overnight trips to Eastern Shore and Virginia Beach, and then, of course, our signature overnight trips to, international study tours to Panama and Martinique. This year, we are very, very, very excited. For the first time, we will have students from Martinique. Actually, we're doing the exchange. So students from Martinique will actually come here May 26th through, and that was actually supposed to be through June 1st. But in honor of them being here, we're going to have our Caribbean Month celebration on May 31st, and you'll hear more about that. We're putting it together. So, be a whole celebration for these students coming from Martinique. And hopefully next year we'll have students from Panama as well coming. So that is my report. And are there any questions?
Bobby, has our kids gone off to Panama and Martinique this school year yet?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
Have our fifth graders gone on their study trips yet? Or when are those happening?
No, those are happening on May 15th, May 15th through the 22nd.
Oh, excellent.
Great. Any questions for Bobby? All right. Being none, as we look at the agenda, Are there any other outstanding discussion, action, or voting items for the board to consider before moving into closed session?
I just want to say, if no one else said it, happy National Principal Day. That was on Tuesday
Oh.
for Bobby.
Didn't know that. Happy birthday. Right?
Well, happy day to you too, Erica.
Yeah, it's been a work. It's been work. I'm not a principal anymore, but
Oh, okay.
but
Happy
yeah.
former principal day.
Yes.
All right. Great. Then at this point, let me I'd like to propose, so make put a proposal out there to move into closed sessions to discuss trade secrets and commercial or financial information obtained from outside the government to the extent that disclosure would result in substantial harm to the competitive position of the person from whom the information was obtained. So is there a motion for the board to enter into closed session?
Morgan, I motion to move to closed session.
It is so moved. Is there a second?
I second.
It's been seconded and it's been properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay. There being none, we will do a roll call vote where I'll ask the trustees to indicate aye or nay to agreement to the motion, starting with Kevin.
Aye.
Tim? Stan?
Aye.
The board shifted. Amy?
Hi.
Morgan?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Beatrice?
Aye.
And I think I'm the last one. Anton indicates aye. The motion passes. We will move into